What happens when humanity's most loyal companions are unleashed on a campus full of aliens? Veridra Interstellar Academy thought they were ready for anything until Earth's pets arrived. Barking, hissing, purring, and causing pure chaos. But in the middle of the madness, something beautiful happened. Fear turned into friendship. Curiosity overcame caution, and creatures once seen as monsters became the galaxy's greatest bridge between worlds. This is the story of how Earth's pets change the stars, one wag, squeak, and slither at a time. If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move to this wonderful story. The twin suns of Veridra Prime hung lazily in the lavender sky as students bustled through the domed walkways of Veridra Interstellar Academy. It was the start of a new week, and whispers of excitement passed between students of every shape, color, and biology. But none were as flustered as Neru, a soft-spoken aquatic being from the oceanic world of Lyrox, who stared wide-eyed at the holographic notice projected on the common room wall. "You must be kidding," Neru muttered, his finned fingers twitching nervously. His blue skin shimmered with unease as he read the message again, hoping he had misunderstood it, but the glowing words remained the same. In an effort to promote interspecies cultural understanding, Earth students are now permitted to bring their domesticated animals to class. His roommate Grim, a cheerful blob-like student made entirely of translucent orange jelly, wobbled over, peering at the projection with his two floating eye stalks. "That's actually kind of cool," Grim burbled. "I've always wanted to see one of those Earth creatures up close." Neru's voice rose in pitch. "You mean the creatures from the Death Class planet? The ones with claws, teeth, fur, and emotional instability?" He flailed a tentacle toward the screen. "They're letting them roam the halls now?" "Oh. Come on," Grim chuckled. "They're not all dangerous. Humans call them pets for a reason. Some are small and fluffy. They make purring noises. Doesn't that sound adorable?" "Adorable," Neru echoed. "That purring noise is probably a warning signal before an attack." The next morning, a strange mix of anxiety and curiosity buzzed through the academy halls. Students whispered nervously, eye stalks swiveling and antennae twitching. Rumors spread fast. Some said a human had brought a scaled monster to breakfast. Others claimed a creature had sneezed acid in the cafeteria. The truth, as it turned out, was even more unexpected. In the biology wing, students gathered for Professor Orland's class. Their attention pulled not by the lesson, but by the human students entering with a parade of strange companions. One girl, Tessa, cradled a sleek black cat that stared coldly at the crowd, its eyes gleaming like twin moons. Another boy, Milo, carried a parrot perched proudly on his shoulder, squawking in multiple alien dialects, some of which were clearly insults. Then came Jonah, leading a large dog with fur like golden grass and a tongue that lolled out in constant happiness. The creature's tail thumped rhythmically against chairs and desks, its joy completely out of place in a room full of nervous aliens. Neru sat frozen in his seat, eyes glued to the beast as it settled beside its owner. It let out a single sharp bark, and half the classroom screamed or oozed under their desks. A Grelian student made of sensitive membranes nearly fainted. Grim, by contrast, laughed out loud. "Professor Orlan is going to cancel class," Neru whispered. But the professor, a tall insectoid with shimmering wings and calm patience, floated into the room without missing a step. His compound eyes took in the scene with a twitch of surprise. "Well," he began, setting his notes on the hover desk, "it appears today's lesson on peaceful herbivores may need some adjustment." As he tried to begin the lecture, more animals became restless. A ferret darted from a student's pocket and began a chaotic run across desks, sending books and datapads flying. The parrot took flight, shouting what sounded like a declaration of war in a Baton dialect. The golden retriever gave a joyful bark and chased after the ferret, leaping between rows of astonished classmates. It was madness. Professor Orland's normally calm voice cracked. "Students, please, return your animals to a secure position." Tessa's cat climbed her shoulder and hissed dramatically. Grim giggled uncontrollably, while Neru clung to the edge of his desk, muttering prayers. From his homeworld. When the parrot mimicked the sound of the Academy's emergency sirens, the entire room froze. A tense silence fell over the class, broken only by the sound of the ferret chewing on someone's homework. Eventually, the dog returned to its owner with the ferret now gently held between its teeth, unharmed. Jonah gave the command, and the dog released the squirming animal, who scurried back to safety. "Good boy, Dusty," Jonah said with a grin, patting the dog on the head. Dusty wagged his tail, completely unaware of the panic he had caused. Professor Orland finally slumped against his desk and exhaled slowly. "Let's reschedule the quiz." As class ended, students filed out with wide eyes and rattled nerves. Some glared at the humans. Others asked tentative questions about the creatures. A few, like Grim, were already asking if they could touch the dog. Neru said nothing, his mind spinning with confusion and disbelief. He had always thought humans were unpredictable. Now he realized their animals might be worse. That night, as the campus quieted and the sun set behind purple mountains, Neru found himself watching the humans and their pets from a distance. He saw the way they laughed, how the animals responded, to touches and voices, how they were part of something strange, something warm. He didn't understand it. Not yet. But as Dusty trotted by and gave him a friendly wag, Neru didn't recoil. He just watched. And for the first time, he didn't feel afraid. Not entirely. The cafeteria at Viridra Interstellar Academy was always noisy, filled with the clatter of trays and the hum of dozens of languages. But today, it was something else. Entirely. Today, it sounded like a zoo had moved in and forgotten to lock the gates. Neru entered cautiously, eyes darting across the room. He clutched his nutrient gel pack tightly, scanning for danger. He had barely recovered from yesterday's class, and now he had to face the next disaster. Earth pets at lunchtime. His roommate Grim was already in line, chatting happily with a human student who had a white rabbit in her arms. "Isn't she the fluffiest thing you've ever seen?" the girl asked, offering the rabbit toward Grim. Grim wobbled in delight, one of his eye stalks bouncing up and down. "It's like holding a cloud with legs," he said. Neru grimaced and took a seat at the far corner of the cafeteria, trying to remain invisible. Just as he began to eat, he noticed something alarming at the next table. A human girl sat casually with a glass container in front of her. Inside was a long, coiled snake, resting silently on a rock. The girl held a small white mouse by the tail in her other hand. "No, absolutely not," Neru whispered. "Lunchtime, Slinky," the girl cooed as she dropped the mouse into the tank. The snake's eyes flicked open, and in one quick movement it struck. Several students gasped. Krell, the cafeteria manager and a hardened ex-soldier with a crab-like shell, dropped her ladle in shock. "Void preserve us!" she exclaimed. Watching as the mouse vanished, the chaos only grew from there. On the far side of the room, a large golden retriever named Juno sat obediently beside a tall human boy. Juno's head tilted curiously as he watched a group of Andromedan students poke nervously at their lunch with extended probes. "Is that thing staring at us?" one of them asked. "He's just curious," the boy replied. "He doesn't bite unless you're homework." Juno chose that moment to sneeze. A massive blob of drool flew across the table, splattering on the Andromedan's food. They let out a collective shriek, backing away from the table in horror. Meanwhile, in Mindrine, the center of the room, a parrot was perched on the back of a chair, squawking loudly in broken galactic standard. "Give me snack, you smell funny, who's a pretty fungus?" it shouted. Nearby students stared in disbelief, unsure whether to laugh or flee. Not far from Neru, a small group had formed around a fluffy creature with twitching ears and long whiskers. It was the white rabbit again, this time being held out toward a tall, spindly Venusian. "Want a pet her?" the human girl asked. The Venusian hesitated. "Does it sting?" "It looks like it stings." "No," she laughed. "It's just a rabbit." The Venusian reached out with a trembling tentacle and touched the rabbit's soft fur. The creature twitched its nose and the Venusian yelped. nearly knocking over a tray of synth soup. "It moved," he cried. Neru couldn't believe what he was seeing. Everywhere he looked, pets were causing confusion. A cat was curled up on a table, ignoring everything around it. A ferret darted in and out of people's bags, emerging with stolen food packets. Somewhere a tarantula had escaped its container and was crawling along the ceiling. The shrieks that followed came from every species in the room. Then the doors opened again and everything got worse. Trevor, a human student with a wide grin and no sense of fear, strolled in holding a thick leash. At the end of it was a squat, scaly creature with stubby legs, jagged teeth, and eyes that seemed to glow. It waddled forward, tail swinging. "Everyone, meet Snaps," Trevor announced. "He's an alligator. Don't worry, he's just a baby." Gasps filled the room. Plates dropped. Someone fainted near the dessert bar. Grim, seeing Snaps, squealed in delight. "Oh, look at his, tiny feet. He's like a little dinosaur." "He is a little dinosaur," Neru muttered under his breath, frozen in place. Snaps paused in the middle of the room, opened his jaws wide, and let out what could only be described as a sleepy yawn. It was enough to send 3 students running for the exit. A Martian hid behind the salad bar, others ducked under tables, but Snaps, oblivious to the terror, just closed his mouth and flopped down for a nap. Trevor laughed. "He gets grumpy if he doesn't nap after a meal, like me." Despite the fear, something strange began to happen. As the chaos settled, a few brave students started asking questions. What does the snake eat? How do you know when the cat is happy? Why does the dog wag its tail like that? One by one, the humans began to explain. Krell, still shaking, watched as Juno gently licked the hand of a curious alien child. The kid giggled. "It's slimy." "Only a little," the boy said. "But he's friendly." Slowly, the cafeteria began to calm. Laughter replaced screams. The parrot shouted, "Good vibes only," and someone clapped. A daring Andromedan offered the rabbit a piece of fruit. Snaps snored. Neru sat still, watching everything. He still didn't understand it. The animals were loud, strange, sometimes terrifying. But they also made people smile. They brought questions, stories, even laughter. He looked down at his empty tray and felt a quiet shift inside. Maybe, just maybe, these creatures weren't chaos bringers after all. Maybe they were something else entirely. The days following the cafeteria incident were quieter, at least by Veridra Interstellar Academy standards. The alien students were still cautious, keeping a wide berth from their human classmates and their unpredictable animal companions. But something had changed. Beneath the tension, curiosity had begun to stir. It wasn't just fear anymore. There was something new growing among the students. Fascination. Professor Orlin noticed the shift as well. In his next xenobiology class, he decided to change his lesson plan. Instead of his usual slides on cellular evolution, he turned to the students with a gentle wave of his 4 arms and said, "Today we're going to learn about emotional bonding between species, specifically human pets." The class went silent. A few alien students shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Neru stiffened. Grim, however, clapped 2 of his jelly limbs together in excitement. A human girl named Kira raised her hand. Her cat curled lazily on her lap. "Would you like us to share stories about our pets, Professor?" Professor Orlin nodded. "Yes, please. I think everyone would benefit from hearing firsthand how these creatures fit into your lives." Kira smiled and looked down at the sleeping feline. "This is Nyx. She's been with me since I was 7. She wakes me up every morning by climbing onto my chest and staring at me until I feed her." A soft ripple of shock moved through the class. A vine-covered student from the planet Venari leaned forward. "You allow it to do that? Why?" Kira shrugged. "It's her way of showing love." "That sounds like a power play," the Venari student muttered. Kira giggled. "Maybe, but it's kind of sweet too." Next was Halem, the tall boy with the golden retriever. He scratched behind Juno's ears while he spoke. "She once dragged me out of a river when I fell in during a hike. Didn't even hesitate, just jumped in after me." A soft gasp came from a few alien students. One with shimmering scales whispered, You trust it to protect you? Halem nodded proudly. With my life. Grim raised a blobby arm. But why? They don't talk. They're not intelligent in the same way. Why do humans love them so much? The human students glanced at each other, searching for the right words. Then Javi, a quiet boy with a hamster and a tiny rolling orb, spoke up. They're not just animals to us. They're family. They don't judge us, and they're always there. They understand feelings, even if they can't talk like we do. The room fell quiet. Even the skeptical students were listening now. Then, in a moment that no one expected, Neru raised his hand. Every eye turned toward him. Even Grim seemed surprised. Neru cleared his throat. Yesterday in the cafeteria, the golden creature, Juno, it came near me. Kira smiled. Was she aggressive? Neru shook his head. No, she looked at me and wagged her tail. I didn't understand it at first, but it felt comforting, like she was saying it was okay. That's exactly what she was doing, Halem said, his voice soft. Professor Orland stepped forward, his compound eyes blinking slowly. It appears, he said, that we may have misunderstood what these animals mean to their companions. Encouraged, more humans shared their stories. One had a parrot who mimicked her laughter. Another spoke of her pet snake who helped her stay calm during anxiety attacks. The snake, she explained, was cold to the touch, but its movements were gentle and rhythmic, like breathing. It's like she reminds me to slow down, she said. Several alien students leaned forward now, no longer afraid but intrigued. Do all pets have such roles? One asked. Javi grinned. Some just cause trouble, he admitted. Like this little guy. One time he chewed through my hollow notes. I failed that quiz. The class laughed. Even Professor Orland chuckled. So not all emotional bonding is productive then? Nope, Javi replied. But we love them anyway. By the end of the class, something remarkable had happened. The atmosphere had changed. Fear had been replaced by interest. Wariness had given way to questions. And laughter. Real, shared laughter filled the room. After the lecture, a few brave alien students approached the humans. One touched the hamster's orb and giggled when it rolled in a circle. Another reached out to pet Nix, the cat, and recoiled slightly when she purred. It vibrated, the student said, confused. Is that normal? Kira nodded. That means she likes you. Neru watched all of it from the edge of the room. Slowly, cautiously, he stepped forward. Juno saw him and wagged her tail again. He knelt down and hesitantly reached out a webbed hand. Her fur was soft, her eyes warm and steady. Neru didn't say anything. He just let his hand rest on her head. For a moment it was quiet. Grim bounced beside him. You're doing it. I know, Neru said quietly. I don't understand it, but it feels good. Professor Orland stood at the back of the room observing his students. For the first time he saw a mix of species laughing and talking, not about data or theories, but about shared experiences. It wasn't just an academic lesson, it was something deeper, connection, empathy. As the class ended, students lingered, reluctant to leave the warm bubble of understanding that had formed. They were no longer just students from distant planets. They were part of something bigger now, something that included barking, meowing, and purring. And Neru, once so afraid, found himself wondering what it might be like to have a companion of his own, not just for study, but for comfort, for friendship. The annual Unity Festival at Veridra Interstellar Academy had always been a formal event. In past years, students wore traditional clothing from their home planets, presented food that few others dared to taste, and politely admired each other's music, art, and holographic displays. It was dignified, respectful, and to many students, incredibly boring. But this year was different. This year, the humans were allowed to include their pets. The change had been announced only weeks before, and while many alien students had groaned at the news, what followed surprised everyone. Instead of turning the event into another chaotic mess like the biology class or the cafeteria disaster, the presence of Earth's creatures added something unexpected. excitement, laughter, and connection. The festival grounds were packed. Booths lined the pathways, each decorated with glowing banners and fluttering lights. Food stalls served dishes from 100 different worlds, and strange music played from every corner. But the real stars were not the performers or the chefs. They were the animals. Near the entrance, a group of humans had set up a pet parade, where dogs trotted proudly beside their owners, tails wagging and tongues out. Neru, who only a few weeks ago would have run in the opposite direction, stood calmly near the front, watching Juno the retriever strut with a small bandana around her neck. He even clapped softly when she did a little spin on command. At the center of the courtyard, Grim hovered next to a floating sphere of water, where a colorful betta fish darted in and out of tiny tunnels. "This one's mine," he burbled proudly. "I call him Splash." A few curious students leaned in to watch as the fish spread its fins, flashing brilliant shades of blue and red. "He's like a living light show," whispered a crystalline student, clearly impressed. The most popular attraction was the show and tell stage, where human students introduced their pets and explained their behaviors. Kira stood confidently with her cat Nix perched on her shoulder, tail swaying like a royal banner. "This is Nix," she said into the mic. "She enjoys sleeping, ignoring me, and occasionally biting my fingers to remind me who's in charge." The crowd laughed, especially when Nix yawned dramatically, unimpressed by the attention. Nearby, a group of students huddled around Trevor and Snaps, his young alligator. "Don't worry," Trevor said for the 100th time. "He's calm today. Just don't wave your fingers in front of his face." Snaps lay still under a heat lamp, eyes half closed. A few brave souls even touched his scaly back, exclaiming at how rough it felt. "Like a moving rock," one student said. Neru wandered through the festival, soaking it all in. He passed a booth where students made small toys for pets out of recycled parts, and another where a Venusian musician had composed music meant to soothe both humans and animals. The soft hums made even the most jittery dogs lie down peacefully. He wasn't alone either. More alien students than ever before were asking questions, offering treats, and even sitting beside animals they had once feared. A group of feathered beings from the planet Eris had created a special perch for parrots and were gently copying their calls. A quiet Martian student had even knitted tiny blankets for the smaller animals, presenting each one with a shy smile. "Professor." Orlin stood near the back of the crowd, arms folded as he watched his students laugh and mingle. He had once worried this idea would lead to disaster. Instead, it had become one of the most successful events in the school's history. He made a mental note to suggest a permanent pet interaction unit in his xenobiology course. Later in the evening, a quiet moment arrived as the crowd gathered in front of the main stage. Lights dimmed, and the dean of the academy, an elder, with a glowing crest and a deep voice, stepped forward. "When we approved the humans' request to bring their pets," the dean began, "many of us were unsure. We worried about danger. We feared chaos." There was laughter in the audience. "And yes," the dean continued, smiling, "there was some chaos, but there was also learning, connection, laughter, understanding, all brought on by creatures who don't speak our languages, but somehow helped us understand each other more clearly." The crowd applauded, and even Snaps let out a low rumble that echoed in the quiet. "As of today," the dean announced, "the Earth Pet Initiative is no longer an experiment. It is now a permanent part of our academy's culture. May the bonds we formed here continue to grow, and may we always be willing to learn from those who are different." The cheer that followed was deafening. Humans, aliens, and animals joined in celebration. Music started again. Dogs barked, birds sang, and even Nix, the moody cat, let out a soft purr. Neru stood beside Grim, who held Splash's tank proudly. Juno sat at Neru's feet, head resting against his leg. He reached down and petted her softly. "I never thought I'd be a pet person," he said. Grim jiggled with amusement. "I never thought I'd want one of my own." Just then, a tiny, alien robot rolled past, chirping cheerfully. Grim tilted his eye stalks. "That one counts, right?" Neru smiled. "If it makes you happy, it counts." And as the stars rose over Veridra Prime and the sounds of joyful chaos continued, the students of the galaxy stood side by side, united by a love they had never expected, the love of pets.